Hello, welcome to Staring to the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach, and I found these strange, mysterious discs in my attic. Matt, do you know anything about these?
I do, because I'm from the year 3000, where people wear hats on their feet and shoes on their heads, and hamburgers take a bite out of you.
Do you believe in Villamay?
I mean, he just brought one, and it just took a chunk out of my hand. So yeah, I am inclined to believe that it is true.
Today we're going to be discussing A for Alphabet by Rasnic Tem, which you can read on thedarkmagazine.com.
Yeah. And I don't want to spoil this for anything, but this is like a secret connection to Marvel because Khonshu's in this. So
yes,
don't be surprised if we see this in the next Marvel movie. I mean, Loki sort of dealt with time travel, so maybe this is part of Loki.
Could be.
Maybe. I will say this is a really fun story.
Oh yeah, it's like it really hammers down the weird fiction.
Yeah. Like I love Steve Rasnic Tem, so I saw this. I'm like, okay, we gotta discuss this.
And totally didn't expect any of this to happen when I started it, especially with that title, A is for Alphabet, and they're like, well, we'll get into it, but I was not ready fully for time travel.
But it's been a few weeks since we've gotten together, so anybody have any updates for the audience?
I mean, I don't know. No.
I was going to say, you had your BizarroCon experience.
I did. So I went to BizarroCon. So yeah, I can talk real quick about that because it was really cool. So BizarroCon is exactly kind of what it sounds like. It's all Bizarro writers there, and it is one of the more unique cons I've been to. This is not a professional Stoker Con kind of thing. So, you're there to hang out. There are panels, there are readings, but they're all very loose, lax, kind of fun, different than what you normally typically hear at some cons. So you get, everything from Bizarro and punk music and their intersections to transcendental not time travel, but transcendental, making your life better through this magical process that's all a joke. It was amazing. They do a Bizarro contest in which, let me tell you, this is the weirdest, craziest thing you'll see, especially when you're just at because it's Wonderland Book Awards. They do that. So novel and short story collection, and so it feels very professional. You're at a banquet table, and then this Bizarro Fest comes up in which people are rolling around on the ground. There is just food, people eating just lots of weird stuff while they're talking. Weird made-up language guy in a giant cardboard costume and doesn't speak any English, just this really made-up language, to Danger Slater describing every single apple that could possibly go into an apple pie. So it's just, and you get electrocuted's not the right word. You might get a little shock if you go on a little too long. So it was great. It's a magical time. If you're at all into really bizarro stuff, it's definitely worth checking out if you can go. It's in Portland, Oregon, so it's a little bit of a hike probably for a lot of people, but for me, it was definitely worth the trip. I will definitely be going back just because it's great. And this is where I discovered, I don't know if either of you have heard of this or anybody listening has heard of the Slow Poisoner, but they're absolutely amazing. It's like a folk punk, weird band, single man band thing, and it's just, the songs are great. Look them up, the Slow Poisoner. You will be very happy, and you will see partly inside my brain when you listen to some of the songs or see the video. He's got some really wacky videos on YouTube, so
I'm adding his newest album to my thing right now.
He's definitely worth checking out. It's really wacky and trippy. So yes, BizarroCon was great. So that's where I was for like a week, and it was a good time.
That's awesome. And then you had your England trip, fit, LeMay?
Yeah. I went to Brighton with two of my friends. It was interesting because we went when the storm Ciarán hit.
Wow.
The one that went across Europe and caused devastation around everywhere. Thankfully, we like the Airbnb we were in was pretty high up in the hills, so we weren't affected at all. And it was kind of like more like a yellow oranges warning, kind of weather that we usually have here in Iceland. So it's like, feels like home, but a little bit warmer though. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. The con was a flop though. It was a huge disappointment. We kind of had this idea that it was, kind of had this preconception that it was similar like the con I was in here in Iceland and with Reykjavik, but it wasn't. It was much smaller. It was more catered towards anime, which is fine. I mean, I had fun, but it was more like catered to all the three popular ones: Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, and One Piece. It's like there's a lot more out there, but okay then.
I will say though, this new Jujutsu Kaisen season's really good.
I mean, I have nothing against them, but it's like I wish people would stop, especially the vendors. They would stop, maybe have a little bit more options to let people browse.
Yeah.
Because, if you just see the same thing in each of the vendors, you're like, oh, really? There's nothing to see here.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. And nobody recognized my Astarion cosplay. Which was a huge fucking bummer but then again makes also sense because this was an anime convention and people were just cosplaying anime characters. But people were just mainly drawn to my red contact lenses to be like, oh, I love your eyes. And I'm like, gee, thanks. You don't notice anything else?
I feel there's a big crossover between the anime crowd and the Baldur's Gate 3 crowd.
Well, I mean, I thought that would be more I don't know, more varied in cosplay, not just anime. So yeah, it was I was talking to one vendor and then he was like, he looked at me and he was like, I have no idea what it is. And I'm like, you know what Baldur's Gate 3 is, right? He's like, nope. It's like, it's the hottest game of the year. We're like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I've never played it, and I know it.
It won Game of the Year. What the ultimate Game of the Year? And it's been nominated for Game of the Year now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a little bit offended for Larian Studios part, on their behalf. I'm like, how dare you, sir? But it was okay. We stayed there for maybe an hour, but then we went home and we decided to do an escape room instead.
Oh, that's nice. Cool.
Yeah, my friend had never done an escape room before. So after we finished that one, which we did finish, we didn't lose any time. She was like, "Can we do it again?" And we went to 2 other ones.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we finished all of them. It was amazing.
So you beat them?
We beat them. Yeah, we actually made a pretty good team. And then she bought a really good, really awesome board game that we played in the evening, and it was so. I hope he's not listening, but I bought it for my husband.
Oh, secrets.
I think he's gonna like it. It's a really good board game.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but yeah, despite that, and then on this next it was 1 day left before I had to go home, and I got sick.
Aww.
Yeah, I was walking around, my throat is hurting a little bit, and then I was like, oh shit, that's the indicator that I'm gonna be sick. It's if I know my throat is kind of feeling scratchy or feeling burning, I'm I'm sick.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
like,
Nope. I know that.
yeah, it's like my best indicator that I know that I'm sick. I'm like, yay, this is gonna be amazing. So yeah, I was sick, and it was funny because at the time we are basically preparing for another volcanic eruption.
Oh my gosh.
I was reading
And
about that the other day.
yeah, and it's in it might hit one of the towns in the south of Reykjavik, in the south of Iceland.
Ooh.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, so they had to evacuate the entire town,
Wow.
and they are still not there anymore. And they also managed to evacuate and find all the animals there, which is good. And there are like huge ass cracks in that town after the earthquakes and everything. And they are, yeah, so we're basically just waiting, like, so when and where is this volcano gonna erupt? Then there's like strong indications that it's gonna be somewhere near that town.
Jeez. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
That is scary.
Yeah, but that's life in Iceland.
Hopefully everything goes okay.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Well, I will say on my end, there's been nothing besides me getting sick and some media that we'll be talking about soon.
Yes.
But when you bring up the escape room, I've only ever done one escape room once, and I ruined it for everybody.
Aw,
no.
How did you ruin it?
So we're in the room, and yeah, we had to get a code to open the door to get out of the room. And that was like whole puzzles, how to figure out this code. And I noticed the room looked like the room from Monsters Inc. So as a joke, I typed in 2319 and the door opened.
The fastest beating.
Like, I was like, you could have made it more obvious, but okay.
The puzzle master just slams the table and walks away. I can't believe they beat me.
People were pissed just because we spent money on it, and like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what if this worked? And it fucking worked. Like, I didn't expect it to work, but it did.
Oh my god, I love it. That is amazing.
So I won't go over kind of everything I've been watching or reading over the last few weeks because it's been a few weeks since we've been together.
Yeah.
But I did also before real quick, Matt, you watch the 2 Minutes to Late Night YouTube channel, right?
I don't.
Oh, that's their music channel, but I saw Botch, Converge, and Cave In last Friday.
Nice.
And it was like one of the best concerts I've ever been to. And then the day after is when I started to get sick, and I saw Thanksgiving.
Oh, how was it?
It is so fun.
Okay, good.
It is the only Eli Roth movie I've enjoyed.
Fair.
It is campy. It leans into the fact it is a holiday slasher, very hard, and it leans into humor to kind of make things more fun. And it's also kind of one of those slashers where like you kind of root for the villain because the kids are kind of insufferable, and you want to see how ridiculous the kills get.
Yeah.
Because the kills in that movie are wild. I'd say the best one involves either the trampoline kill.
Oh, so they do it?
They do the trampoline kill.
Nice.
And there's also one involving an oven. That was really good.
Is that the one from the trailer?
When he's cooking someone in an oven?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the best part is he puts the turkey thermometer in her thigh and then closes the oven. And then when she's done, the thermometer just pops.
Oh, amazing.
Like, it's just like one of those movies where, like, it knows what it wants to be. And I feel, for me, a lot of Eli Roth movies either feel too mean or they're too gratuitous.
Yeah.
Or they're just kind of pointless.
Yes.
Like, I still, to this day, don't understand why Cabin Fever has such a following. like, I get why Hostel has a following, but I don't get why Cabin Fever has a following. But, like, this movie felt like he reined it in enough to keep things interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't too gratuitous, but when it came to the kills, they were pretty over the top. And you have the classic Eli Roth staple where a person is bound and gagged and they puke on their gag.
Yeah.
Which I feel he does that almost every movie at this point now.
Yeah.
But the plot's pretty much the idea of the movie is like a year ago, there was this big superstorm, Plymouth, Massachusetts, and because the Black Friday sales were such a hit, they decided to maximize profit and have their Black Friday sale starting at 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving night. Which leads the crowd into a frenzy that ends up causing a stampede that 3 or 4 people get trampled to death.
Oh, jeez.
And the tramplings are pretty brutal. Like one person gets like their scalp ripped off by a shopping cart.
Oh my god. Of course.
And then a year later, they have all these. So the original kind of, I guess, the head of the first colony in Massachusetts, his name was John Carver, which like that's a perfect name for a slasher villain.
A total perfect name.
So someone breaks into John Carver's cabin and steals his axe. And at the same time, they're passing out John Carver masks for like a Thanksgiving thing in Plymouth. And this guy is just showing up dressed up as a pilgrim, wearing a John Carver mask and having John Carver's axe. And he's hunting down the people who caused this to happen.
Nice. Pretty standard, but I love it.
And it's a simple, straightforward slasher. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't do anything new. It leads hard into the tropes, but like it does everything so well you can't be mad at it for being what it is.
Yeah.
I do wish it was a bit more grindhousey. Because that trailer is so good.
The trailer is great. That like, and I haven't seen it, and I really want to see it, and I'm excited for it. But I was a little disappointed he didn't lean back into making it a grindhouse thing. But after 11 years or 12 years or whatever, it makes sense.
It's probably studio like budgeting of how studio wanted to.
Yeah. Though we'll probably find out with like a Blu-ray release, he'll have made it a grindhouse thing or something like that.
But I will say I do recommend it, and I'd say like we'll each do let's since I did that, Matt, what about you? We'll do each one, pass it around.
Cool. I read and I swear I have it right in front of me. I read The Ballad of Perilous Graves by I'm looking it up, Alex Jennings, I believe. But let me make sure because this book is great. There it is. Alex Jennings. Yep. Ballad of Perilous Graves. I swear I'm prepared. So this actually, it's funny for this one. A couple weeks back, John Padgett on Facebook posted that he had read this and he really liked it and he really liked Alex. And so I was like, all right, I'll give it a whirl. If John likes it, I like what he likes. So it's not horror. It's nothing like John Padgett's stuff, but what it is kind of this like, it's a sort of fantasy, modern day fantasy story about New Orleans, and it like taking a little of China Miéville's City and the City. So there's 2 cities here. There's New Orleans and NOLA.
Oh, the City and the City?
Yeah. So that book. So this is kind of like that idea of there's like our New Orleans and then this magic place called NOLA that like there's zombies, there's like flying air cars, there's like flying spray paint tags that just get everywhere and they get on people and they call these people Peabodys because their whole mission is to find more of these floating graffiti tags and walk into them because it makes them feel good. So there's just roving bands of that. The dead are alive. So like there's zombies, but then there's just like people who are dead but are still alive. And so it's just this huge love letter to New Orleans. And it is about this storm, this like the ultimate storm coming to take NOLA away. And we have 3 kids and their whole goal is to find 7 songs. So like songs are personified as people or things, I should say. And their goal is to find these 3 or 7 songs and kind of save them because there's something coming out to kill them, which is the storm, which will then kill New Orleans. So that's kind of the basic idea, but there's so much more happening in this, and it's just the way Alex writes this thing that like all the prose it's like a song. It's not written like a song, but it feels like that. He just kind of like weaves these words together in ways, and the way he tells things, you're just like, what is happening? It's so amazing. And so it's not what I typically read, and but it's just this amazing thing that deals with so much like about, you know, like your own personal goals in life, and like what music is like, and what music can do for you, and like how this city is strong and just fights for people, and it's just this thing, and I like, it hooked me. It's a big one. It's like 450 pages, but like you're just so invested in what's happening, and there's just a lot of like these points where you're like so there's this one character that we're following, and then a little bit later we get like little snippets of their life as things are happening, and it all ties to the story, so it's not just rando stuff, but it all kind of ties in, but like you kind of jump in and out of these different characters. But then about like halfway through you meet somebody and you're like, well, wait, that person is like this person, are these the same people? And then everything I was reading was it all happening to the, so like he just does this really cool thing that kind of keeps you, because the characters are guessing throughout a lot of this, that keeps you kind of guessing, but not in a frustrating way, in like a really engaging kind of way. So it's amazing. The Ballad of Perilous Graves, I think it might have won something at some point, but it's just, I adored it. I finished it yesterday, and I kind of just had to sit for a couple minutes just thinking about everything that happened, and it was awesome. So highly recommend checking this thing out.
That's great. Vitlame,
Awesome.
What about you?
Well, I have actually started listening to the sequel to Gone to See the Riverman by Kristopher Triana.
Oh, how brutal is this one?
It's called Along the River of Flesh, and the narrator is really good. I can't remember the name of the narrator, but he's really good. And I'm about 50% in now, and it is super fucked up. The first book was horrendously psychologically fucked up. This one is a little bit different, in which there are 4 points of view in the story. So you have Edmund Cox, the serial killer that Laurie in the first book was trying to impress. He's escaped prison. He's on the loose, and he has some kind of diabolical scheme to go see the Riverman again. There is Keith Drakeson, I think his name is the detective who brought him to justice, like put him to jail, and he's after him again. And then there's Gary, PI, who is searching for a missing girl who had some connections to Edmund Cox. And then there's June, a 19-year-old girl who is searching for Edmund Cox. Whether she's a groupie or not hasn't been revealed yet. Like, from everything, it kind of looks like she is, but I have my own theory to it, which I'm not gonna disclose. Not until I finish the story, and I'm gonna be like, yes, I fucking knew it. But yeah, so they all have different goals in mind, but they all are like entwined. So they're all basically like, I'm at the part of the story where June, Gary, and Keith are basically all have banded together in order to search for the serial killer. And I hate everyone in this.
Hell yeah.
Well, except for Gary. I feel really bad for Gary because he kind of like is the only one who really doesn't want to be there, but is kind of forced to because, you know, the family of the missing girl is paying him to look for her. So he's like, fuck, I gotta do this. And he's like clinically depressed and like the part about what his past is super tragic, and I'm like, oh man, if you die, I'm gonna be so fucking pissed. The rest of the people, I couldn't give 0 shits about them. Like, especially the cop. It's like he is a perfect example of ACAP. Like, that guy is a piece of shit, and every time he's talking and thinking, and like, I just can't wait thinking like, oh, I really hope that you die a horrific slow death. It's like, and I just really, even though I hate Edmund with like every inch of my soul, I really hope he really, really kills you. Because you deserve nothing less.
Amazing.
And yeah, it's like, it's super creepy. Like, the narrator is really bringing it together. Like, he brings every character to life. It's really good. And yeah, I'm just can't wait to go further into this rabbit hole.
All right. Honestly, I need to read the first book still, but that sequel sounds awesome.
It's really good.
I like Kristopher Triana's a lot. Well, if we're going to go along books, I'll talk about 2 books, but I will say I finished a few different books. I won't mention the mangas. I'll just talk about the non-manga stuff. But a book I finished yesterday was The Secret Life of Insects by Bernardo Esquinca.
Yeah.
Esquinca?
Oh, okay.
It is his first English collection. He's a Mexican horror and weird fiction author. And Valancourt Books put out his first English collection. And this collection is fucking awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of good things.
Like, literally, this isn't the last time I read a collection with like this much focus was when I first discovered John Langan and the Wide Carnivorous Sky. That's the last time I was like this deep into a collection.
Crazy.
But yeah, like, literally, the first story is called The Secret Life of Insects. I'll just read the first 2 sentences. Are you ready?
Yes.
2 items of interest. 1, today I'm going to talk to my wife for the first time in 2 years. 2, my wife is dead.
That's great.
That's just how it opens. And all the stories are pretty short. Like, you have a couple that are kind of like novelette or novella length, but the rest you can knock out like in 10, 15 minutes. And they go all over the place. They go from stories that take place with ancient Aztec curses to there are 2 very clear Ligotti riffs in this as well. There's one called, I believe, The Paradoxical Man is a very much a Ligotti riff, and Senor Ligotti is also a Ligotti riff. And it's a playful mix of like horror fiction, weird fiction, cosmic horror. There's one story that involves demon possession that was also super interesting, and this idea of like people's belief or devotion in something is what keeps that thing alive. You also have a really good haunted house story called Leprosy in the Walls. And yeah, like, honestly, it's just a really solid horror short fiction collection that I think we should discuss sometime on the podcast, because I think you guys would get a lot of these stories too.
Yeah, that would be awesome. No, I've seen people posting about it, and I keep looking at the Valancourt thing, and I'm like, I just need to pick it up.
Actually, can I tell you a funny Valancourt story that involves this book?
Yes.
So, okay. I pre-ordered John the Balladeer from Valancourt Books, which I got before I got that fucking 2 hardcover box set I'm still waiting on after 4 years. But so I placed an order for John the Balladeer pre-order, so I got that. And then I decided, you know what? I'll treat myself and get 2 more Valancourt books. So I order the Carl Edward Wagner one, and I order Secret Life of Insects. The package comes. The first package has John the Balladeer. Cool. Second package comes. Second package has the Carl Edward Wagner collection and this self-published cozy mystery novel about a witch that has like one of the worst covers I've ever seen in my life.
That's great.
So I emailed Valancourt. No, I still have it. It's somewhere around here. But I emailed Valancourt and I'm like, dude, what's up with this? And they fixed everything. So like, shout out to them. And this collection was just fantastic. So I'm happy I was able to finally get it to read this collection.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then the other I'll mention that I was talking to you before we started recording, Matt, is the Megg and Mogg comics by Simon Hanselman. It's Megg and Mogg. And this is some of the most trashiest, vulgar, fun comics I've read in a long time that are also super fucking depressing. Like literally one of my favorite stories in this collection is the punchline. And by punchline, I mean both the end of the story and the joke of the story is the main character's mom relapsed on heroin.
Oh my god!
it treats it as like a joke punchline. It is in very much bad taste, a lot of it. But if you want some like cutting edge, kind of risque comics that I don't know, I feel like this is something I think we've talked about a while ago in Abyss. But I feel when like we have the whole Comics Code Authority thing, policing our own like mainstream comics in this country, it really hurt like comics in general.
Yeah.
Because like we don't really have much stuff outside superheroes.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like was underground or independent stuff. And which is why I like Fantagraphics a lot. Fantagraphics puts out the Simon Hanselman stuff. Because Fantagraphics is getting the weird shit. They're getting the underground shit. They're getting the stuff that like most people weren't really getting their eyes on. Like, I love have you read Love and Rockets before, Matt?
I haven't. I really want to.
Like, Love and Rockets is great, and I would have no idea about Love and Rockets if it wasn't for Fantagraphics. Which brings me back to like Megg and Mogg, is you can read the books in any order, but the strips kind of tell Megg, who is a drug-addicted witch, Mogg, who is her abusive roommate, who's a cat, their friend Owl, who's trying to do better, but their friends always drag him back down the muck, and their psychopath friend, Werewolf Jones, and other assorted characters, and just the horrible life these characters live.
Yeah.
And it plays it out like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Only it's a lot more vulgar than It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's amazing.
Like one of my favorite stories in this collection is all the characters take a bunch of sleeping pills and they have this like esoteric journey in their sleep where they come to a new understanding about themselves and their drives, and they all just leave it more depressed than they began.
Oh my god.
There's one where their landlord tries to come over to inspect their apartment, and while the landlord's over, their friend Werewolf Jones breaks into the apartment and just starts having sex with people while the landlord is there, and it's just a disaster of a visit. And that's the strip. It's just this visit gets worse and worse and worse.
Amazing.
And it's just like some of it's fun, but it's also once you read like into the stories of what's going on, it's like, oh, this is really sad. Apparently, where I started with the volume called Seeds and Stems, which is kind of like out of print zines, international zines, strips that weren't released in America before, were like kind of like collected here for the first time. Apparently, it's a bad one to start with, but I still had a good time with it. But if you just look up like Megg and Mogg reading order, you can find like where people recommend you start. If you just want some trippy, strange, and surreal comics, I highly recommend it.
Nice.
But Matt, what about you?
Well, you had mentioned Ligotti a little bit earlier, and that made me think that I did read his Noctuary and the Spectral Link by
yeah, those are great.
Chiropetra Press just released this a little bit ago. They still have, was it Croton? What was the X-Files one? Croton something? Crampton.
I feel the name of it right now. Crampton.
Yeah, that one. So they also have that coming out, but this is like anyway, one of his other things that is getting re-released, and it's great. So because I'd never read this before, and I've read a lot of his work, and so it's definitely, what I will say is it's definitely for somebody who's into Ligotti. If you're new, I wouldn't recommend this, even, and it's kind of harder to find. I feel like the Penguin Classic one is much easier to find now, so I would get that instead. But if you're digging his stuff, this is definitely a great one to hunt down. It's a lot of, it's all short stories, but there's some longer ones in here, and then there's some very short ones. It's just a lot of like almost flash fiction, like 2-3 pages kind of thing, but still pretty cool just to kind of see him doing his thing. But a couple of stories in here are just absolutely great. So this one does have The Small People, which is about kid with his family, his mom and dad, and they're driving, and they see a little a sign for the small people, and it's a small, like, action figure sized town, and all these little people that live there, and it's just this like it's just so insane, like, as it goes along, and it's just very visual, and it first time reading it, but I really love that story now. He's also got this other one in here, and I'm looking it up because I don't remember the title off the top of my head. The Strange Design of Master Rignolo, which is another great one about artists and getting trapped in paintings and finding a giant statue face in the ground, and who's that statue face. So like, this all sounds like nonsense words, but it's absolutely great. So yeah, I was just really happy. I love that Chiropetra, because I can't speak, that press is putting out all of his stuff, and I think they do a really good job with it. But that was one thing I read, and I really don't have too much else. I can say I'm in the middle of Never Whistle at Night, the Indigenous dark fiction anthology. Shane Hawk, I helped edit, and it's been excellent. Tons of great stories in there so far, and it's just exactly what you're kind of looking for, and it does deserve all the praise that it's been getting, and all the bestseller lists and everything it's on. Every story like hits, and it's cool because it's not just, it's a bit of everything. So they are taking, like, old Indigenous tales and kind of modernizing them, or they're taking the Indigenous experience in America today or in the past, or, not just in America kind of thing. So it's just really cool kind of getting all these different takes and different ideas, and it's all Indigenous writers just giving us stuff. And there's some really great ones. There's some that will make you so mad. There's like a story in there about this woman who, she's got like the perfect life. She married this real like go-getter guy he's on track to be CEO. They live off of the country club kind of thing, and she's pregnant, and she's ready, got all the pictures, all the social media stuff. She's like in it to win it. And then she sort of surprises her husband at the country club bar and says that, she mentions that, she's Indigenous, and she's hates that the football team got rid of their mascot too, because it didn't bother her. Well, thinking that she was blending in, but instead it calls her out, and no one realized that she was an Indigenous person. And it just goes into this really dark territory of like a Stepford wife thing where the mom is like, we need to have pure blood and all this stuff. And like by the end of it, you're so mad, and it does something that you don't expect at the end. And it's so that story blew me away. So definitely worth hunting down if you haven't already hunted it down. So I think that's all I want to talk about. So I'm good. I have nothing else.
So is it me then?
Yeah, go for it. What you got? Oh, I didn't see Rich. Yes. What else have you been up to, Vitlame?
I finished season 3 of Only Murders in the Building.
And how was it?
It's amazing.
Is it? I stopped after the first episode of season 2.
Really? Did you?
I loved the first season, was great, but then once I started the second season, I was like, I'm not interested.
Okay, well, I'm always a sucker for murder mysteries and really likable cast, and I just love those 3. They are such a great combo.
Yeah.
And it's always a delight to hear Martin Short or Steve Martin swear.
Yes.
Because you know, in all the movies you've seen them in, they never do that. So you're like, whoa, that's that's a grumpy old man swearing.
Is this Murders in the Building season 3?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, I think, Matt, you should really give it a try, because in season 3, Meryl Streep is in it.
Oh, well, that doesn't. That's not a sell for me.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, it's the same. Like, Meryl Streep for me can be a mixed bag, because I remember when I watched her in Into the Woods, I absolutely fucking hated her.
Yeah.
Because her singing was atrocious. It was so bad. I was like, why did you let that woman sing? It's like, why? Why?
Well, I can tell you why, but continue.
Yeah, and then when I saw that she was in this too, and I'm like, uh-oh, is she gonna sing? And of course, because they are doing a musical in this.
Oh yeah.
She actually does sing, and I was pleasantly surprised that she actually can't fucking sing. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why? Why are you singing
the direction
well now?
she was given.
I think so. I think she was like, that's the only possible explanation I can have for that. It's like when she was in the word, like, okay, you play the witch, sing awful.
Yeah. She was in 2 Mamma Mia things, and she sang. Did she sing good in those?
I haven't seen
She was
them.
good at Mamma Mia.
Okay.
I haven't seen them because I'm not a big ABBA girl, so no.
That's fair.
I'm a big ABBA guy, so.
Yeah. But this was really good. Like, she sang really good, and I loved Steve Martin's Pitter Patter song.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, they made him sing too, and it was really, really good. Like, the entire season was amazing. I really liked it, except for the part where Mabel and Topper, yeah, that's the name of the character, started getting together, and I'm like, there's like a 10-year difference between you guys. And I'm like, I can just feel the ick. It's like, no, you can be her brother. That's fine, but please don't sleep. And then I slept again. And I'm like, oh no.
That's amazing.
Did not like that, but yeah, and they like, of course, they like announced like, hey, there might be a fourth season, which I really hope, because they ended it on a cliffhanger like they did last time. So I really fucking hope there's gonna be another season.
I'm pretty sure there will be. It's such a successful show that
it's really good. I'm a sucker for murder mysteries. I'm in fact, actually, tonight my husband and I, we're gonna watch Haunting in Venice, and I'm super excited about that.
Nice. I've heard interesting things about that.
Yeah, I've heard interesting things about that one too.
Yeah.
I will say, I think Only Murders in the Building season 1 is still the best season, but I've enjoyed all the seasons so far.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree.
We'll see.
will say
one day I might watch it.
But besides that, I also think I know you've been watching this, Matt, but Invincible season 2.
Yes. It's been amazing. I'm only 2 episodes in, so I'm not. I
won't spoil anything. Don't worry. I'll say episode 4 is crazy.
Okay.
But that's all I'll say.
Cool. I'm just happy it's back.
Honestly, I think it's better than it was in the first season too. Like the animation quality is like improved by a lot.
Yes.
And the character arcs are so good. Like you feel so bad for Invincible.
Yes.
And I like how did you read the comics at all?
I have not.
So in this time in the comics, they don't really focus on Mark's mom. So like how we're getting more in Mark's mom and what she's going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really digging that stuff. I think that's really cool. And just, yeah, no, I think they're doing a great job because I know and it's funny because of what we're going to be talking about, but like this multiverse kind of story. And I know we're all kind of probably done with this because it's been done so much, but I think in Invincible, they're doing a really good job with it. And the way they're using it is not, they're using it more for the story. So kind of like Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it's less like what Marvel and DC have been doing with multiverse stuff.
Well, here's a universe where everybody's cats. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is a little bit more like, well, this all is story, all is serving the story more, and so I am appreciating that. So,
and the violence is very nice too.
God, yeah.
I feel like Invincible has to be one of the most brutal shows to like ever exist.
Yes.
Like, have you seen Invincible, Vitlame?
Yeah. I saw the first season, so we're gonna probably start the second season like soon.
Well, I will say the second season split in half, so the first 4 episodes are out, and then the next 4 are gonna be out next year.
Okay,
that's man, good. What?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That sucks.
Yeah, they're splitting it in half. I think it's to give the animation team more time. But that's pretty much it for me. I think we're all ready to dive into this story. What about you?
Yes.
All right, let's all learn about the dangers of time travel with A is for Alphabet by Steve Rasnic Tem, which I didn't expect to be a time travel story, not gonna lie.
I totally agree. I had no idea. I just went into implied. I'm like, oh, is this going to be about some pyromaniac? Cool.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be. This kid like gets obsessed with this alphabet book and starts burning things, and eventually burns down his house with his dark urges.
Yeah, I thought so too.
What we got was so much more interesting than
we got a huge ass whiplash.
And it's funny because this isn't a long story. So like us saying this for you listeners, it's not like it's shocking because it is the way it opens up is very one way, and then like I don't want to say quickly jumps into time travel, but it
just takes a huge ass U-turn.
Yeah, you're just like, holy crap! Wait, what?
Yeah. Because when you meet the kids, like his friends, and you're like, oh, you guys are probably into the same kind of shitty shenanigans. Awesome. And then there's like, hey, I found these discs, and we might be able to travel time with it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they were just in the library.
It's
easy to think about.
Well, you know what they say? Funny. Gothic buildings are full of surprises.
Yes.
But oh man, yeah, no, this is great. I didn't look. Is this is this a new story from him, or is this like a reprint?
Let me check.
All right, well, while you check, we can just because and the reason I'm asking that is because again, tied to everything we've been kind of talking about today is just he does this like time travel thing, which is, and they talk about multiverse stuff, which I know has always kind of been around, but still like right now it's really deep in the media world.
Oh, and yeah.
So like I wasn't sure if he like had kind of did
if
this.
If he wrote ahead of his time, basically.
Yeah. Or if this is like his like kind
or
of. Or
he actually just time traveled and just wrote it based on what he saw.
And yes, and like his idea on time travel is like a really cool concept. You know, again, like if you saw, what was that, Synchronic by Benson and Moorhead, and like and other things that do time travel too. So it's not, again, that's not like they're the only ones, but they did like a really interesting thing with time travel, and I think they do a really cool. Rasnic Tem here does like a really cool thing with time travel too, and how it works.
Yeah.
All right. So
you can't really say how time travel works because we never know. So it's kind of like a, how should I say? You can just do whatever they want you with it. But I always, because it's my favorite movie, I always stick to the Back to the Future rules.
Yeah. Yes.
So if anything doesn't match that, I'm like, nah, it doesn't work.
All right. So I am on Steve Rasnic Tem's Twitter right now. And he says, in 1987, I published a story, L is for Love, in the small press magazine Footsteps 8, edited by the appropriately named Bill Munster. It was the first of a series of alphabet stories. I planned to write all set in the same neighborhood with a story for each of the 26 lettered houses plus a coda, and to create kind of a story cycle / composite novel. The alphabet theme would run through the stories and figure into the language used. Like many projects, I nibbled away at Quinuna's alphabet for many years, publishing several pieces during 22-23. This month's issue of The Dark includes the lead-off story, A is for Alphabet. The project is now complete, including 7 originals among the reprints. Over the next few months, I'll be exploring the publication possibilities for the book.
Okay.
Amazing.
So this is a new story, but it's connected to other alphabet stories he's written.
That's awesome.
That explains quite a bit. Okay, because like for listeners, the way it opens up, you know, we're on the street and all the houses have are lettered, and that's kind of like you get this idea of each house and there's something weird going on, and now you're saying quinoa, like. And I might be saying it absolutely wrong, but that is the like library that's kind of at the head of the street. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's a really cool idea.
That's a really cool idea. Yeah, I agree. It's like sounds awesome. And yeah, and
if everything this story, I'm in.
We really did get the thing like every house was like unique in its own, and I actually agree. Like I was a little bit sad that we weren't able to explore some of the houses more in the story.
Yes. We get a lot of teases, and heck, even their house, the narrator, and they might have his name somewhere in here, but the narrator hit their house. It was like, and I could just totally picture it. It's like this. It's like supposed to be a house, but their grandfather like used chicken wire and plaster to make it some like ancient Egyptian tomb house.
Exactly.
Such a visual.
It's like hieroglyphs were crudely scratched into the exterior walls. It's like if you were like a tourist and you would just randomly enter the street, I'd be like, oh my god, I'm spending the entire day here.
Yeah. It's amazing. So like, yeah, that's really cool. And we get like these little teases about the idea is like they never, and this has nothing to pertaining to the story, but it sounds like it has it pertaining to the whole, is that like none of the kids really can go up to the houses for like trick-or-treating or talk to them for anything like that. And we get these little teases of the people that live in the houses. There's even a joke about C for clown, and they're like, clowns aren't supposed to be scary, but if you ever seen this woman, you would know it's gonna be terrifying.
Yeah, and also
that would be the beginning story of like a novel or like a sequence, right?
Yeah,
that would be good foreshadowing for the stories that come in later.
Right, and it's also like I like how he decided to use E for eviscerate. I'm like,
yes.
Is there a wizard who is gonna eviscerate someone? Or
oh my god, yes. But so like when you first start, that's what you're getting, and you kind of are thinking just like, oh, it's just crazy neighborhood, and the main character likes to light fires and loses track of himself when he's doing these things, and he's always worried that something bad is going to happen. And then it jumps into, we're in the basement and we find these 2 discs from Khonshu, and now we can travel time.
The measure of time. Well, he like calls his friend, right? And he's like, "Hey, I found these things."
Well, they all kind of look at him, and then that night the narrator wakes up, and it's his buddy Carl, I think, or one of the kids. Is like, "Hey, it's been 3 weeks, but I figured it out, and I'll talk to you tomorrow or something, or I'll talk to you in 3 weeks." And then 3 weeks later, he's like, "Did it work?" And it's like, "Oh, that's awesome."
And then they end up becoming time-traveling boys. Don't they, like, they tell discs their bicycles and stuff like that?
Yes.
Which I'm
it's
just like...
such a 80s thing, guys.
It really is.
Such a fucking 80s thing. Like, oh, what should we, use it on? I mean, we have our bikes.
Yeah.
I love that detail so much.
So perfect.
I was like, I immediately thought of like the kids from E.T. and Stranger Things of like the fucking bikes, of course.
Kids on bikes.
Well, and if you've ever seen Teen Titans Go to the Movies, they have bikes that time travel. So.
Oh my god.
That's a really dumb reference. And they do a really good job, or at least Rasnic Tem does a good job, again, in such a short story, of giving us sort of the time travel rules scene where they're like, we can go back, let's just go back a little bit, don't touch anything, try not to run into ourselves, like either future or past selves, and just, we're going to do little tests and see how this works. But they're boys that live in this crazy neighborhood, so of course they don't follow the rules right away.
Yeah.
Well, what I love is so much the consequence of breaking the rules, but like, I mean, this is in the spoiler territory, but like the ending.
Yes.
When they travel too far ahead of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
For like,
they got greedy.
Yeah. They did, but I like how it affects that character.
I know.
That was an interesting take on the time travel thing.
Yeah, and there's also an interesting take on, curiosity killed the cat, and hubris is the fall of man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Oh, that's really good. I like that. Because it's like, it's cool because, like, you can kind of just picture, and they even talk about, like, at first, they just go to those perfect summer days that they remembered because they're kids. So, of course, that's what they kind of, like, they do want to jump to the future a little bit, but they do a lot of like kind of rehashing of time, and like we don't see a lot of it. It's just them saying like, oh, we did this, but they're like, and this is when we start getting sort of the like creeping dread, the weirdness of it, is that time travel time, like the time that they are actually speeding through time. We don't see a lot of it, but we get descriptions of like hearing babies cry, and like our main character shows up a little late, which I have questions on. And like they start seeing weird things happening kind of in this in-between space, and like which is interesting because it's not like an instantaneous I'm in 2023 and now I'm in 2024 kind of thing. It's like, no, there's a little bit of period where things are happening, and all we're getting as a reader is just a tiny little taste to know like something's not right.
Yeah, and it's not just through the narrator. Also, like it doesn't also. I'm sorry, it doesn't also happen to him. But also, it like individual things keep happening to the boys that are unique to them. Like for example, like when things were starting to get wrong when they were doing these time travels.
Yeah.
Like for Carl, it was an insect swarm.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I kept thinking, like, does it have anything to do like with their innate fears? It's like, are the discs kind of feeding on that as well as they're time traveling?
I mean, there's this one as well where it's, and then there were the ones who chased after our bikes, like the lady with all the makeup, the clown lady. It looked as if she'd been waiting for us. How could she know we were coming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like he said, also the drunk Santa Claus who tried to grab my handlebars, the naked
Yeah.
human who ran on all fours like an animal. It's like something like maybe going through all of this, like going back and forth, kind of tainted the discs.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And that's why like everything started to go into the bizarre zone, basically.
Yes.
So maybe they weren't that they had like what Carl had been trying to warn them of, not creating a multiverse, but by going back and forth in time like this and not really giving them a break to do it, They basically did it the next day. It might have actually accidentally created this kind of multiverse that they got stuck in, which kind of would explain why everyone was like, "We know you're coming."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I think again, like the story as a whole would be interesting to see where these things sort of tie into his other stories, because you're like, is it the neighborhood just specifically? Because it doesn't sound like when they're time traveling, like they're going, lots of different places. They sort of stick just on that street where they notice, like, if they jump back and forth through time, wherever they land at that is then they talk about the houses. And so it is interesting to kind of think, is it like a multiverse thing? Is it just whatever weirdness that he's writing about this neighborhood? Is it, it's fascinating for this short of a story to give us so much stuff to kind of like think about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
What also really surprised me was what happened to the narrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That caught me by such a surprise. I'm like, whoa, where was you? It's like, oh, we went there now. Okay.
Well, and that's what I was wondering. So like, because they all sort of get to the same time at the same time, except for the narrator's always showing up like half an hour late. Is he like is he fiddling around with the time and like going around burning stuff?
I think I think he is burning things.
Yeah.
I guess the ending kind of gives us one thing, but
yeah. I think what it is he's kind of maybe starting little fires before he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he wants to see like when he gets back how the fire is.
Yeah.
Or something. But it looks like when he set this fire, they went to the future. But while they're going to the future, the fire burned the house out of control, which led to what happened to him.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good idea.
I'm still, what happened to him is not really a consequence of what he did if he burned down the house, because, he is basically seeing his dangling intestines.
Yeah, no. He's gone. Like he's dead at this point.
Yeah.
Well,
so I'm just kind of wondering, like, how did that come apart? And my only hypothesis could be that the entire roof fell on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and we didn't kind of bring that part up because that's a good thing. And for you listeners, they at one point, one of their first ideas is like, oh, we can go to let's jump to when we turn 21 and we can get alcohol. And the smart one of the group is like, well, I think we would stay physically the same age, but maybe mentally we would be older, which is such an interesting idea again for time travel and like what that kind of thinks about. And you talking about him showing up at that point with his body all apart, you're like, well, crap, like what is actually happening when they jump ahead? Are they getting older? So yeah, that's interesting.
I also like the straight after you realize what happened to the narrator, you see how, because they're kids and they fucked up.
Yeah.
And they're trying, especially Carl is trying so desperately to fix it, but how the fuck do you fix this if you don't know what's happening?
It's easy. You take what's on the outside and you put it back on the inside.
Yeah. Or just use duct tape.
Yeah, duct tape.
Or just, have you tried blowing on it?
Rub some dirt on it and drink some water.
Or call mommy.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's just and yeah, so it's just this is all like in the way it ends and like them try, like you said, them trying to fix things and like we don't know where half of them ended up. You're just like, oh man, this is not the time travel you think about.
I also love the final paragraph.
Oh yes, it's so good.
Where it's just, I say the letters almost every day. A is for the anomalies. E is for endless. D is for destiny, but also despair. C is for consequences and cruel and terrible cost. And P, I think P is for pyromania.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, oh man, yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know. Are we spoiling this at this point?
No,
it's a short story. People
it's
can read it.
One. Yeah, and it's definitely worth just like getting into it. But that idea of okay, I think they jumped like 12 years ahead or whatever, and that's when they find his house burnt.
Yeah,
and like you then jumping back to their original time, having that like hang over your head when we already know that he's a pyromaniac and he already knows he's a pyromaniac, but to kind of like think like, okay, I know it's coming. Am I gonna do this? It's just that's one of those things that like can keep you up at night.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It's just.
I mean, but it's still fun. It's still funny though because I think the only one who isn't really trying to fix things is the narrator himself. He's kind of like accepted what has happened to him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's like, I mean, I'm still gonna continue time traveling. Fuck that shit. I'm not gonna give that one up.
Well, and it's funny because he's the like one of the only ones that isn't either breaking the rules or like freaking out. He's just like in it. I mean, I guess he's freaking out about the screaming babies and stuff like that, but he's not like he's not doing the other stuff like spray painting the doors or bringing things back or going on his own. I mean, he might be later, but like as the story progresses, we hear about like, oh, one guy just jumps around time all the time. And then the other guy's out there spray painting the houses that are dangerous and stuff like that. And Carl is trying to keep them all contained. And so it's just interesting that our narrator is the one that's like following the rules and just except showing up late and just kind of doing what he's supposed to. And you're like, okay, but he's still the one that's going to burn stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's because he's burning everything.
Yeah.
So he's a little pyromaniac, that son of a bitch.
Yep. I can imagine just Carl be like, just stay still, you motherfucker. I'm trying to fix you.
Honestly, Carl's reaction reminded me, I know Matt did not like this book, but it reminded me of Laws of the Skies a little bit, when like the kids are having the we fucked up kind of moments in that book.
Yes, definitely. He's Hugo, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. I feel bad now. Poor Hugo.
Poor Hugo.
Oh, my God. Well, and I love, too, like, we realize that he was the guy, like, because they see somebody at the beginning, and at the end, you're like, oh, well, that was Carl. And he's still trying to fix things, and you're just like...
Yeah. But I also love, like, he kind of like, our main character just kind of stays in that time without his legs or his, like, limbs or anything.
Yeah.
Just kind of stuck there forever.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a fate worse than anything else.
Yeah, but I still, like I said, he just like, I'm just going with the flow. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Because it says here, I too traveled the timeline, sticking to this neighborhood where I've lived all my life. And you're like, maybe don't.
Yeah, maybe stop traveling time at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you had enough. Maybe you just had enough.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to lose more limbs? That's how you lose more limbs. like, have you seen what happened to Roger?
Right? All his finger. It's only his finger.
Yep.
Oh my God, this was great.
I'm glad you guys like this story. I was like, because have we ever done Steve Rasnic Tem on the podcast before?
I thought we did.
I think we did once.
I couldn't remember what it was.
But it's kind of fun. Like I like having new voices as well, but I also like looking at older voices too. Yeah. Because like Steve Rasnic Tem, he's been doing this for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
But he still got it. And I feel newer authors could learn from a lot of the stuff he's doing as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Oh, definitely.
And I also feel for an older author, he's not as well read as like you would think.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always good to kind of give highlight to those voices. And I like how we have stuff like The Dark. And I'm kind of sad that Vastarian's on a break.
Yeah.
For who knows how long, an indefinite hiatus.
Yeah, it's definitely a bummer.
So it's so nice we have these other magazines that are still keeping the genre alive. And I have a special announcement I can make.
Uh-oh.
Nicole Cushing is going to be on Abyss next week.
Oh, yeah.
Yay!
Talking about her new book,
Oh,
The Plastic Priest.
yes, definitely. Oh, I'm very excited.
And me too. I didn't start reading it. I'm going to start it tonight. But I am so excited to... I don't know. I always like having Nicole on, and every time I have a new Nicole Cushing book, I'm in my happy space.
Yes, it's a good day.
Which is ironic, because her books are anything but happy.
No, but I am too. No, I'm very excited. She's amazing, and all of her stuff is great.
And Vitlame, where can our listeners get in touch with you?
I'm kind of like not that much on social media anymore. Like it's been doing pretty good with my mental health. But if people want to get in touch, they can always DM me on Twitter and on my website, vitlamemistauthor.com.
All right, and Matt, what about you?
Well, I'm still. I've kind of almost given up on Blue Sky. I should jump on there more, but I am there. And then I'm on Twitter at BrandenburgDM. So yeah, you can find me there.
And you can follow Abyss on Twitter with Add Into Staring. I should get a snap on Threads or something just to get more Abyss tweets out there in the world. But one day. But this is Richard Gerlach saying keep staring.